Off top, squirrel and fox skulls glow pink under a black light. Play music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. I'm joined by Charlie Kravitz as usual, and we have a new guest I'm very excited about. Nekias Duncan here to talk to us about basketball. He's a basketball expert. You can get his insights on the Dunker Spot, his podcast, and he has on a Super Bowl champions Eagle shirt for some reason.
I hear there was a big game not too long ago, so I figured I would rep.
Were you weirded out by the fact that I say random things at the beginning of my show? Whenever we have a new guest, it's normally sometimes they say something, sometimes they don't. But
no, I'm all good. I'm just excited to be here, ready to rock it out.
Domonique used to
making things awkward.
Yeah, well, Domonique used to do the thing where like a second before the show, he'd be like, "You got a weird fact?" And the person who had never listened to our podcast before would be like, "No, no, I don't." He's like, "Can you have one? Can you have a weird fact, buddy?"
Charlie is, I built Charlie up into a lot of great confidence, and now Charlie just be taking shots at me all the time, and I'm not so sure how I feel about new Charlie, new brave Charlie. Beginning of the show, Charlie was timid. He's tepid generally. Now he's shooting insults at me on group chats and talking and wearing Taylor Swift sweatshirts.
I
feel like it's a statement. I feel like you're making a statement by doing that.
What's the statement?
I don't know, but it feels like it's a shot at me.
I feel like you're this. Okay, let's just peel back the curtain.
All right, peel it.
Dominique's feelings are a little bit hurt because he sent an embarrassing text. We haven't known Nekias for a long time.
I just met him.
He was trying to. He started a group chat after we booked him for the show.
I want to have a good show,
and
man.
He was like, "Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk some basketball, some NBA stuff." But also, let's all just have a fun time! Exclamation point.
I know. Oh, there was no exclamation point.
This is the man who used to not be able to send a text message more than 3 letters.
There was no exclamation
okay.
point. And as soon as I sent it, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I just a corny old man?
If I had sent that text, what would you have said?
Oh, you'd have got roasted.
We can let the man build some morale before the show. I think that's all right. We need a little positivity. You see what's happening right now.
I think so. We have good shows when everybody's having fun. I think sometimes I was talking to myself. Sometimes I focus, especially when we're talking about basketball, which is not my home turf. Mm-hmm. Like I get a little in the weeds and try to really prove that I know what I'm talking about. And then the show's bad because I'm not having fun. So I was saying, let's make sure we have a good time.
You know what the best way to have fun is? To tell people that. That works every time.
In my defense, my final defense, I was at my son's flag football tournament, and I just finished saying that. I'm not coaching this tournament. I was just finished saying that. Like, hey, make sure you guys have fun. Make sure you have a good time. You're only young once. Enjoy this tourney, guys. And I feel the same way about this show. We'll never have this moment again, guys. So let's enjoy it, right, Nekias?
That's right. I like it.
See, on my side. That's what you get, Charlie.
I don't like this. How you're turning Nekias against me.
I didn't turn him against.
I'm on the side of logic.
I feel like we're all on the same side here. We all want to have a good show. We all want to have a good time.
Oh, can't we all just get along? We about to turn on you. He hit us with a can't we all just get along?
Hit me with that with an Eagles t-shirt on after dropping a double nickel on my ass. Should we talk about some basketball stuff that I think we're gonna have a fun time talking about, but people have not had fun tweeting about? Well, we should get into some back half of the season storylines, but first, we're a little bit late. But do you want to dive into some of the All-Star stuff? Because I mean, the takes have been flying on social media. I mean, this is the worst All-Star game ever. This is embarrassing. We have too much Mr. Beast. Like, there's not enough basketball. What's going on? And a lot of it comes back to a larger discussion where people seem to either blame the players or Adam Silver for everything that goes on in every event for this. And I know we all have more nuanced takes on that. But in general, do you think Adam and the players have taken too much for how the All-Star game is going?
Yeah. Like, I'm infuriated by this. Let's let the guests go first. I mean, infuriated is the wrong word, but I've been annoyed not having a platform to yell about how frustrating it's been to listen to people talk about this, because the blaming of Adam is annoying in large part because it's not – I'm fine with saying that Adam can take some responsibility. What I don't like is the lionization of David Stern. It's like, all we need is a hard nose with an iron fist like David Stern. That's wouldn't have worked either. But anyway, as I said, I'll let the guests go ahead and chime in first, and I'll finish firing off all my hot takes later.
First, I'm glad you said the Stern thing, because that's always a refrain to when there's a suspension or anything crazy happens in the NBA, and it's just this wouldn't happen under Stern. I'm just do we not remember what some of these do we not remember what the conversation around the dress code was and what that was? We don't have to do that. But as far as the All-Star stuff is concerned, I've been kind of going back and forth with myself on this, because on one hand, it's kind of a realization that so much of this just isn't for me or isn't for us anymore. As I just turned 30 not too long ago, so I don't want to go full blown younger generation, etc. But Kai Cenat was in the Celebrity All-Star game. We had a Mr. B segment during All-Star Sunday. I know who they are and I know what they do. I'm not the target audience for that. And so just off rip, I'm not going to enjoy that portion of the program. And I do think there is a little bit of, if not grace, at least a little bit of understanding that can be given to the players, because they have to do a ton during All-Star weekend. They have 17 different activations on top of the actual basketball of it all. And as this is happening during the All-Star break, you wrap up on Sunday night, we got our first NBA game back on Wednesday. They don't really get a break. So to the players aren't playing hard bit, I do think there's a level of understanding that could be given on that front, just because of how much they have to do and just what the game is. On the other hand, as someone that was credentialed media in the All-Star game when they had it in Utah not too long ago, that was the worst basketball I had ever seen. And I think there's a wide spectrum between we want playoff level effort in the All-Star game. That's never going to happen. That should be the expectation. But it certainly can't be what it was in that Utah game. And so I think as players are searching for this middle ground, and as Adam is trying to find this middle ground and trying to poke and prod some of the players to a certain degree to where we can raise the competitive level without putting too much on them, I don't think enough thought has been given to how difficult it is to strike that balance. I think they're clearly working towards finding it. And I would say it's certainly not there yet, hence the complaining. But efforts are being made. And so I don't think it should be end of the world type conversation.
So now you touched on a bunch of the same themes that I agree with. And so first I'll pick back up on the David Stern stuff. The first thing about the David Stern stuff is the power dynamics in the league shifted, and it would have shifted with David Stern or not with David Stern. The amount of money that the players were making relative to how much they're making now is very different. Mm-hmm. And how much power Jordan came to have is different than the power that LeBron had when he walked into the league. And then the power that he exhibited and the other players followed suit.
Just to take a pause on this for 1 second. LeBron got $90 million from Nike as an 18-year-old coming out of high school before ever signing an NBA contract. He was a Nike employee first and was financially at a different level than any 18-year-old coming into the league ever had before, which changed the course of all this stuff. So, carry on.
I respect David Stern as much as the next guy. I met him a bunch of times, had good conversations with him. R.I.P. David Stern. But being a hard ass, get the hell out of here with that. You're not going to bully LeBron James or any of these guys, Frank. We just watched it happen with Jimmy Dan Butler a couple weeks ago. The Miami Heat tried to bully. So that, the idea that was going to be the solution, we can put that aside. The second thing that you said that I really also agree with, this game ain't for us. Mm-hmm. It's I remember when I was a kid, I enjoyed the NBA All-Star game. I went over to my friend's Reggie's house because he had cable to go watch the dunk contest. I loved all that weekend. Was a big moment in time. But sometimes things age out. So one of the things that happened is maybe I aged out or maybe the game aged out. But when I was young, seeing all those players play at the same time was rare. Mm-hmm. Have them together was rare. And it was, whether they played hard or not, the novelty of it was cool to me, a 11, 12, 13-year-old boy. So to your point, maybe, as you pointed out about the these streamers and Mr. Beast and Kai Cenat and those guys, maybe this ain't for y'all. Yeah. Maybe this is for the young people. And also I think to the point that I was making about the power dynamics shifting in the players' direction, the league has changed. There was a time when this was the only chance that some of these guys in different parts of the country got a chance to put a showcase on, and where they could try to make a case for whatever their marketability was. It was a big moment. Mm-hmm. these fools on nationally every night, internationally. If you got a computer, you can see them every night. Like this, it's possible that the idea that this is going to be some sort of big moment has passed us. And lastly, I actually think that we got the players to play a little bit. Like this was the most like aggressive and intense All-Star game that we had. If we had a full game like we had, the problem was I think the 40 points thing made it really short, and
the walking up and chucking threes.
Yeah,
and
that was when I rewatched the highlights. It was like 3. Like I get it but that's also like kind of the gist of where the game is going. So like I don't know. I find it a little bit annoying, and I'm defensive of the players generally.
Yeah. So there's something a bigger discussion about this because this is. To me, it's like this is pretty exemplary of a lot of the ways that the NBA gets talked about. Mm-hmm. And I learned something from Domonique. I'm going to give you a genuine compliment here, which is just that you have to think about the job of the commissioner in a lot of these sports. And like you've said it about Roger Goodell in the NFL, his job is to represent the owners, to make money for the owners. The NBA is a more complicated, equation with that because the commissioner in Adam Silver has positioned himself as working for the owners. Their new franchises are going to go for $6 or $6.5 billion. He's also working for the players in a lot of ways. He's been a player first commissioner, and that's been really positive and really negative. But in thinking about that, what David Stern did really well, which is I'm not talking about all the things where he was, did poorly, was he set up an incentive structure that aligned with what he wanted the vision of the league to be. So he was a steward of the basketball and it aligned with its incentives to the players. Mm-hmm. I don't think Adam Silver has done as good of a job with something like this because NBA All-Star Weekend in a lot of ways is like Super Bowl week for the NBA. It's like a come together, all the biggest stars. This is a huge media moment. I don't think he's aligned the incentives or figured out a way that gets the, a media product that we enjoy digesting. Do I have an answer for that? Not necessarily, but I'm also not the commissioner of the NBA coming up with the answer.
Yeah, I want to hear what Nikai has to say to that because I kind of, even though you tried to like fluff me by complimenting me off the beginning, I kind of disagree with what you said.
I think it's something that I haven't thought super deeply about. So it's an interesting point to bring up. Like I do think broader strokes, like Adam Silver does have a difficult job. But to your point about trying to align the vision, I guess we're all kind of trying to figure out, or I guess in the stage of accepting like what the actual vision is. Because as much as we complain about what the state of the game is and state of the effort, et cetera, like we just got the graphic, yesterday about what kind of social viewership that this All-Star Weekend got and how high it is. It's like, well, we're complaining about it. All younger demographic, they're seeing all these short highlights and Dame missing threes as this kid is going for $100,000 and all this stuff. It's just like, if that is his vision, if he is just trying to make this more profitable, it's kind of hard to argue that he hasn't done that. Like we are about to step into new TV money in a year or so. That is ridiculous. We have all these new TV deals being made and things like that. So like maybe some of the frustration and some of the conversation is not accepting what Adam Silver's vision actually is. And then, that leads into different conversations we can have about what it should be. Or like we're all still trying to parse through it because he's trying to parse through it. As Domonique said, the league has changed so much and is changing so much as players have gotten more agency. And it's just, it's a lot to try to sort through at once.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think Charlie's right about talking about the incentives. And where I would push back on that is I don't believe, and it's not fair because we can't go back and really understand, but I think that the players' incentives were aligned with the leagues at that point because of where they were. I don't know that it was like expertly constructed in that way. I think where we are now because of the growth of the league, and I think this expands to, it feels like a quarter of NBA conversations is like, what's wrong with the NBA, which like we've been avoided doing that for the last couple of years.
Basketball.
Yeah, we like to actually talk about basketball, but I think it's a fair thing to bring up because it ties into another conversation that I think we've had a lot of is like why the intensity of the regular season is not the same as the postseason. And I think it's because this league has matured to a point where the money is very big, which is great, but also
the money's comic. Like the numbers to normal people are like when you're going to see people making $75 to $80 million a year. It's not that they don't earn it. It's just the right revenue split, but the number is still shocking.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that is definitely going to influence the way that people behave and prepare. But I think that what what has frustrated me about some of these conversations about the All-Star game and about the NBA at large is the people who are making the largest complaints are often people like media members.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also a part of this ecosystem. And what we put into the ecosystem, the players are going to respond to and react to.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me the last time we went on a rant about how awesome somebody's career was because of how many NBA All-Star trophies they racked up and not how many titles they racked up. Like it feels weird for us to then also complain while we know that the arguments that we're going to have and the score that we're going to keep is how many rings you got. And I think the result of NBA, the league owners' greed and having 82 games, and the result in us boiling everything down to like rings, like results in the incentives for the players is like, all right, what's more likely to happen is if, like, let's say James Harden has 5 All-Star game MVPs but don't got a title. Y'all gonna cook his and say he don't play and when it matters. He's an All-Star game merchant. Like that's not what anybody wants to be known.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, like the media members are trying to reflect what a lot of the fans are saying, and even what Draymond's saying about it. And like, you know, it's okay to say that fans don't want to watch certain parts of the All-Star game. Yep.
No, I think it's okay, but I guess what I would, and maybe this is my own sensitivity, is I receive that as like the All-Star game has broken as a result of a number of different issues, and the NBA regular season is less enjoyable because of a number of different factors. And rather than exploring and discussing the factors, we're like, hey, these players rich and lazy. It's like, no. That's what frustrates me, Nakai.
Yeah, I don't like that portion of it. And I would say if there's one criticism I could levy towards Adam Silver as we kind of zoom out with the incentives and like what is the stewardship of the league looking like, I think in whatever way that he can, I think the shaping of the conversation around the league needs to be better. And whatever he can do to influence the tenor of the conversation around the league, he needs to at least investigate into doing. Like, obviously you want to get into like censorship or anything like that. But outside of those lenses, like the All-Star festivities on Sunday weren't enjoyable to me. One, we just had like 17 different breaks in the middle of action and we didn't need that.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you had Draymond Green just telling the audience as you were trying to celebrate all these All-Stars and rising stars, well, this is trash. That can't fly. Not that he can't hold that opinion or there isn't any validity to why are these rising stars playing against these all-stars when they didn't earn to the game. Not that those opinions have been valid, but as the commissioner of the league and as you are trying to sell your product during, again, the Super Bowl week of your thing, why do you have an active player talking about how bad this is?
It was funny. It was particularly funny juxtaposed with the Sunday before where we listened to Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt pretend like that was a good game. Pretend like we had a reason to watch after the first quarter. They was out there selling. The boys was selling in a way that Draymond was unwilling to. Draymond was like 0 out of 10. And Tom's like, man, he's only down 34. He could do it. Don't turn off your TVs, guys. Mahomes has done some wild things.
I have a couple ideas to propose to fix the All-Star game.
We're not doing that.
Before we get there.
No, sir.
Can we talk for a second about the Wemby Chris Paul thing? Because people were complaining about that. That has to be Chris Paul's proudest moment as a father. When Wemby came up to him and was like, let's cheat the system. There is no rule against this. We aren't actually doing it. I've got it approved by the officials. That to me was the funniest I have seen in a long time.
Can I give a potentially controversial take? I think, frankly, this is just the NBA's fault. I don't blame Wemby or Chris Paul. Like, I think this is the rule. If you're telling me that we have a time-based competition and you have to go to these stations and you do not have it written into the rules that you actually have to complete the task successfully before moving on, the logical conclusion is going to be, well, fine, let me get through this station as quickly as possible. And if Victor Wembanyama has also done his due diligence, according to Draymond, asking 5 or 6 or 7 different people, hey, are you sure that we can do this? This is what the rules say. Am I actually okay? You can't then disqualify the team for doing that. Like, give them, hey, y'all got to do this again. Here's a 15-second penalty because we don't want everyone doing this. Do this over. Going straight to disqualification is nonsense to me.
Yeah, that is. I agree wholeheartedly, especially if he checked in with people. As someone who believes that you shouldn't have to make a rule for everything.
You shouldn't.
Like generally, I think the idea that anybody would tank is like disgusting, and I shouldn't have to create some structure to make sure you don't tank. I understand the incentives of it, but in this situation, like this is like. I feel like tanking and things like that are like third or fourth level rules. This is a top level rule, man. Don't put an obstacle out there that I don't have to participate in. Like, there should be a penalty. I got to make 3 shots before we move on. Like, there needs to be something. I'm on Chris Paul and Wemby side.
100%. It's also like, he said last year he was mad that people didn't take the skills competition seriously. He spent a year thinking about this, had the best plan, and had a time that eviscerated the competition.
That's perfectly fair. It's like you are advocating as a league and a commissioner. We want people to try their hardest to win. They tried their hardest. They've been thinking about this. They read the rule book. They went and discussed this with people. They did exactly what you want, and you rewarded them by DQing them. And to your point, guys, they could at least let them do another run. It's like, all right, we'll give you another run. They was like, nah, you out.
It's amazing, and it's also like there's been so many NBA players who like sort of project that they have the Mamba mentality and they'll win at all costs. No one has it like Wemby. He will win at any cost.
Listen, that brother tried to find gray area in the rule and to attempt to remove gray area beforehand from a guy that young is incredible to me. And so he absolutely wanted to do it. And then as the camera pans over to them finding out they were disqualified, like Chris Paul's like, what was going on? But he's chuckling. Wemby's upset. It's like, what do you mean? I did my job here. Y'all didn't do yours.
That's football coach levels of preparation, because I don't know if you know this or not, but before every football game, the refs come over and talk to the head coach of the team, and that's when you are supposed to like run past them anything that you might be thinking like, so this is what we're gonna do, or you tell them like, look, they grabbing a lot. So that whenever I played for a team that had some trick plays, like that was a point when the head coach would talk to the refs and said, we know this is legal. We saw it in the rule books. We don't want to embarrass you on TV. I just would like you to see that this is what we are going to do. We're going to split out our tackle, and we are going to declare him eligible and do a double pass with him. See, this is legal. All right. Wemby did that, and then they threw a flag on his DQ'd him.
He got Dan Campbelled, or I guess.
Yeah.
Dan Skipper.
Yeah, it was Dan. It was both. Dan Campbell was the coach against the Cowboys, and Skipper was the tackle. All right, you want to get on to some real basketball talk?
Can I pitch a couple ideas first?
Oh, I thought we got past that. All right, go right ahead.
First one, you could do it regional. Players like represent their area of the country, and you have like a DC team versus a North Carolina team versus a California team, because there could be more pride in region.
It's like
and make it like a tournament type of thing.
Where you from?
Yeah.
Okay. And so then international is just all international.
Well, yeah. Because the first thing I thought was do it the first week of March Madness and have everyone representing their alma mater and do a 3-on-3 tournament. But I realized that would be, while it would be awesome, there's not as much roots to college basketball as there was. So that both of those ideas could work. But next one, 1-on-1 tournament, but players need to buy in themselves. And you don't know who's in it until then. They bring their bag of $250,000 of cash, and they're like, I'm the baddest here. Here's my $250,000. Like, and the first one's out there. It's like Luka walks out first and puts it down. He's like, who wants it? And then Anthony Edwards walks out and he puts his bag down. And we really see who's not afraid of that.
This is pro wrestling. I mean, if that could have, I mean, the problem is the feasibility of that. But I like that as the one-on-one in general is pretty cool.
And like, who's going to get roasted? Because the second you walk out there with your bag of cash, you're no longer a coward. You can't be made fun of.
Until you get crossed to your knees. then you're going to get roasted.
And it's also like you can see some Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams types who end up doing really well in that type of tournament, who you were like shocked by. It has to be 3 dribbles though. You can't let people back them down.
How many more of these do we have?
Just 2 more.
Okay.
One is just the entire weekend is framed around MJ and his current age playing Bronny in 1-on-1.
Bronny.
No
I heard
shot.
you talking about this one early.
No shot.
Yeah, I'll let.
I mean, he's giving him it's 11-0 MJ.
I don't think that benefits either party. It's either Bronny just beats an old man or Bronny who
whoa.
Like we
Bronny beats MJ. That matters to me, man. That matters to me.
That's in the documentary for LeBron if Bronny beats MJ.
like sure, but like we've already talked way too much collectively about Bronny to begin with, and now we're just making this another story. Like wasn't Bronny invited to like the Rising Stars thing, and he was like, "Nah, actually, I'm okay," and like good on him first and foremost. But
I'm sorry, I took this seriously. I apologize. I forced you to take it seriously by taking it seriously. I fell into Charlie's trap.
Oh no. This is real serious. MJ would go out there.
No. MJ wouldn't do that.
Do you remember when he
would do it
in 2014 when he was beating Michael Kidd Gilchrist in one-on-one?
I remember those stories.
Like was that 11 years ago? Yes. Is MJ in even worse condition now? Yes.
Yeah.
But he'd have Bronny's the post hitting fadeaways over him all day. If it's winners, MJ's winning 11-0. Last one is just U.S. International. I don't know. This is a really simple one. I don't understand I know it's not the same thing as the Olympics, but the Olympic thing was awesome getting to see these guys play as a team. And I don't really understand why we don't just flip it that way. Like the roster now, you could make a case that 4 of the 5 best players in the world are international at this point with SGA, Jokic, Giannis, and Luka. And it's like, that's a totally competent starting 5, and doing that against these guys and making it actually have a cash prize, I think is a legitimate solution where there could be some pride in taking it for both sides.
Yeah, I don't know. Jokic ain't gonna play hard no matter what you do to the All-Star game, and he's the best player on that team. So I'm sorry, buddy. I'm on board with you. Can we get real players back into the dunk contest? That's like
real players.
That's my thing. Yeah, I mean.
No love for Stephon Castle?
So, Stephon Castle, was he the 3rd best player on the Spurs?
Currently. He's there, but he's going to be a really good player.
This is my point. My point is that when I was young, I watched the dunk contest for the dunks in large part because they were cool. They were novel. They were different. Mm-hmm. At this point in our internet lives, the dunks aren't special. I'm watching the dunk contest for the famous people. I want to watch famous people do dunks. I don't want to see Castle versus McClung. I'm sorry. Like that's my one complaint about the weekend is I don't want to see. I don't want us to be building towards Castle versus McClung. I'm sorry. Congratulations, Mac McClung, on your 3rd championship.
I understand that. I don't know if that's fair to them though, because I think the slam dunk contest has both been like we have seen like in 2000, like Vince Carter was already like a young budding star, but like his star really took off with that. Like I don't want the dunk contest to lose its allure as acting as a launching pad. And I think, for people that are deep in the weeds like me or general NBA media sickos, like we know who Stephon Castle is. He might win Rookie of the Year this year. As a UConn guy, like he just won a national championship. But like I'm cool with people's first introduction to Stephon Castle is him playing incredibly hard.
Losing to Mac McClung? Well, that's how you want to introduce launching pad is getting beat by a McClung?
I mean, when you're getting beat by him jumping over the tall part of a car, like I think I'm okay with that. Like if he wasn't doing good dunks, then I more so understand and probably just agree with your point. But as we are kind of reaching the upper limit of what these guys can do and quieter, what these guys are willing to do in light of the money at stake. You don't want to risk injury and stuff like that. If Matt McClung's out here doing nonsense like that, like, yeah, I want to see that. And if Stephon Castle is also doing great dunks, it's like, oh, this dude is cool. He just played well the night before in the Rising Stars game. Again, he may win Rookie of the Year this year. He's going to be, if he's not the front runner, he's certainly in the top 2 or top 3. Like, I think that raises the profile a little bit. So, like, I'm fine with that. I would also be fine with, if Ja isn't lying, if Giannis isn't lying. Like, I'm not opposed to seeing, like, established stars in it. But, like, I don't think the players not being stars should be a detriment. Like, I think this still should be an event that can raise the profile.
Vince Carter did not. I mean, I know. Okay, I'll just take my L on that one because, like, suggested like Vince Carter. Maybe it was because I grew up rooting for UNC that, like, I mean, we firmly knew who Vince Carter was.
Oh, not that he was unknown.
Incredible. Like, it's not Vince Carter and Stephon Castle are not the same. That's all I'm saying. But it's fine. I'll take the L.
Both 5th pick in the draft.
I'll take the L. But the real L that's being taken today is by Charlie because I know he had another fix for the All-Star game that he chickened out on when he got on here. That's okay.
I'll say it.
That's nope. Don't let me bully you,
you want me to
into
say
getting canceled. Don't let me bully you into getting canceled. Next up, storylines for the second half of the NBA.
I think everyone knows what it was.
Yeah, they can put it together. I think you could tell them who the coaches would have been for the teams that would.
Larry Bird's coaching one team. Magic Johnson's coaching the other team.
Second half of the season storylines. Let's go.
Okay, yeah, we have some second half of the season storylines. Nikias, I want to know I want to start with the East because, the Cavs had a pretty historic pace to start the season, and they're still at the top of the conference with amazing numbers surrounding them. But there's a larger sense that people's NBA casuals believe in Boston more. And I think even a lot of NBA diehards believe in Boston more because of playoff pedigree, because of the amount of all NBA guys that they have who have performed in the playoffs. What do you think Cleveland would have to do for you to believe in them as being on Boston's level or like a real threat to win the title?
I think, honestly, they need DeAndre Hunter and Dean Wade to stay healthy. I think to really make this real, because I think dissuades people from picking Cleveland over Boston, aside from the pedigree, is that not only is Boston good, Jason Tatum's just 6'9", 6'10" wing. Jaylen Brown's big wing. They can just kind of get to where he wants. And Cleveland, if they suffer any kind of injury, they're kind of weak on the wing with size portion of the program when you're already starting Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell together. Like, that's part of why they traded for DeAndre Hunter to begin with. Like, we need a 6'7" dude with plus wingspan that we can toss on one of these guys. And DeAndre Hunter, good defender, not an all defense caliber guy, but we just need that kind of collective size. And so if Hunter stays healthy and plays well, if Dean Wade stays healthy and plays well, they have at least the size to throw at Boston's two best players. And then from there, like, Cleveland has been the best offense in the league pretty much all year long. They have the highest offensive rating in NBA history right now. So, like, they can absolutely score at Boston. They have beaten Boston before. And you look at what they have in the front court in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, like, they have a level of size and switchability they can throw out defensively to kind of goad Boston into some of their worst habits offensively, to where they can play a little bit slower. They can get into more of the ISO style. And if the threes aren't falling, then it gets a little hazy for them. So I think if their big wings actually stay healthy, that makes this series a little bit more real for me.
Is there any, and this is a personal debate that Charlie and I have had for a while, is I think that he believes I undervalue how good Donovan Mitchell is. Is that fair, Charlie?
Yeah. Well, do you remember, I'm sure you saw this one, that there was like the ESPN narratives where it's like, the Knicks are lucky they didn't get to trade for Donovan Mitchell. Like, you can't win with that guy. And I was like, we're really overthinking this. This guy's really good and has been really good for playoff teams and been the anchor of a 1 seed before in Utah too.
But I mean, I guess tell me if I'm right or wrong, or I guess tell me why I'm wrong when that's probably the fundamental of it. And I guess it doesn't go as far as the Celtics. That's the challenging thing about the Celtics is what I've come to learn about basketball is that you got to have that guy. And at least the Cavs clearly have that guy in Donovan Mitchell. The Celtics have a couple of guys. They're very, I guess, Pistons-esque in the way that team is constructed. So is my trepidation about Donovan Mitchell in big games late in the postseason real or fake?
I would say we could put a little bit more respect on Donovan Mitchell's name on that front. Like, I think certainly he's not going to be afraid of the big moment. Like, he's had big games, big series in the postseason. So he's not afraid. He can get to the basket whenever he wants. He's a tremendous jump shooter on top of this. The defense, again, not all defense level, but has leveled up, and he defends bigger than what he is. So, like, I think he's absolutely good enough. Like, I think it's also fair to say, like, he's not Jason Tatum. And even with the way people talk about Jason Tatum, like, there's a Tatum tier, and then a little bit above that is like your Jokic and your Giannis. So, like, I think if Donovan Mitchell is your best player and he's probably somewhere in like that 7 to 10 range on the high end in terms of players in the league, you do need a little bit more behind him to kind of offset some of what you may be losing with like a pure number one, like a Jokic or a Luka or something like that. But ultimately, I think Donovan Mitchell's a big enough shot maker. And if the defense for Cleveland, which has been in the top 10 pretty much all year long, if it's going to be good enough there, and Darius Garland now healthy, he's played in the all-star level on top of this. Evan Mobley is leveled up. Again, you have these kind of reinforcements to complete the starting lineup, and you have solid bench production on top of that. Like, Cleveland has a good enough team, and they have a guy in Donovan Mitchell. Honestly, that's really been the fun part of this Cleveland team this year. Like, Donovan Mitchell hasn't had to operate as like that pure number one this year, because on any given game, Darius Garland can just slam the door for you. Donovan Mitchell obviously can do that. Evan Mobley has leveled up as a scorer this year. Like, you're not giving him like 30% usage or 25 shots a game, but you give him the right matchup, He can knock down shots. He can operate as a ball handler. They're letting him run pick and roll sometimes this year. Like, they can just dice you up in so many different ways, and Jared Allen just finishes everything. So this is the perfect construct. If you do have kind of trepidation about Donovan Mitchell, this is the perfect roster construction for this, because now you just have at least two other dudes that you feel comfortable creating on top of the wave that Donovan Mitchell can hit you with.
How realistic should we take the Knicks at this point? Or is there someone else in the East that we think could give the Celtics a real run in a postseason series?
I think I keep an eye on the Knicks just because they can score with just about anyone. I worry about their defense against Boston specifically, because OG Anunoby is a tremendous defender, but I never know how healthy he's going to be. Mikal Bridges went from all defense level. He finished like top 5 defensive player of the year not too long ago, to, hey, what is this dude doing, to back to he's a solid defender now. And like, he just needs to hit the all defense version of himself consistently in that series to make it worth it. I don't know if I trust New York to defend well enough to beat Boston in the series. They can beat them on any given night, but I don't know if I trust them to beat them 4 times. As far as another team I would keep an eye on, like, I think you can't rule out Milwaukee just because Giannis is that kind of singular force. Damian Lillard's very good. You are having to believe in Kyle Kuzma at this point, which we have seen him operate as kind of like that gap filler on a winning team. So I know it's in there, but he's also just been bad for Washington. He has been solid so far in Milwaukee, so that part's cool. But I guess you can't fully deny the Giannis of it all, just because he can dominate the paint in such a way, put a bunch of people in foul trouble. You have him and Brook up front, so you do have a defensive shell that you feel pretty good about. But I do think it's Cleveland for me as the best team that can knock out Boston.
It's pretty clear when you Kuz, you lose.
That was it.
That's it. I was loading up for that one.
I
was loading up for it.
So we've been hosted together for a while, and like, I look over at Charlie, and like, sometimes he'll communicate with me with his eyes, and I know to just chill for a second because Charlie got some. He gave me the eyes. He gave me the eyes for that. He eyed me so he could say, "You Kuz, you lose."
Made you laugh. Hey, look, we're all having fun.
We are.
When you Kuz, you lose is fun.
Right. My man, I can't be critical of you because I said let's just have fun. That was fun. All right, let's take it over to the West. I think the West is a similar situation. Well, it's slightly different because OKC hasn't done it yet. But
way more open, it feels like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I was thinking similar in that they have run away with the lead in the same way that the Cavs have. But I mean, you still have to respect the Nuggets. What they've done in like the ability that Jokic has, and we're convincing ourselves that LeBron and Luka are championship contenders when I don't really think they are, but I guess we have a real expert here who can tell us about the West. Who do you think is the biggest threat to OKC right now in the West?
Biggest threat to OKC, like, the boring answer is themselves, because they just have to be able to score in the half court. Like, someone not named Shea needs to be able to score consistently in the half court. Because I think they're they have been not just the best defense in the league, they have been historically good defensively this year. And I think that is just going to translate. They just need Jalen Williams to score consistently in the half court. They need Chet to stay healthy, and if he sees switches, he needs to beat them up. So, like, my honest answer is OKC needs to stay healthy and stay out of their own way, and they should be able to get out of the West. As far as other teams, like, I think it is Denver. Just because, like, Shea may win MVP this year, and rightfully so, because he's been incredible this year. Jokic is still the best player in the league / best player in that conference. And the battles between Jokic and Chet have been incredibly fun and funny over the past year and a half, because we have seen Chet take Jokic off the dribble, or Chet, boogie from the outside, get inside. He's blocked some shots. We've also seen Jokic just put him underneath the basket just because of the weight difference. And so I would just be excited to watch that matchup and what OKC could do with Nikola Jokic. And if Jamal Murray is healthy and he shows up, that he can score with the best of them. Like, a scary situation for OKC. Like, I think they are a better team, and they have proven to be the better team this year. If you get these two teams in a series and all these games come down to somebody's up like 4 with 3 minutes left, you got to deal with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray late in games. And as good as OKC is, and as nails as Shea has been in clutch time this year, really the last 2-3 years, there isn't a solve for Jokic. And that's before getting into the Jamal Murray of it all. Yeah.
I mean, it's always one of the best things about basketball is like while I completely appreciate and respect the ability to break down the X's and O's of basketball and understand the intricacies and the changes in the series, one of the coolest things about basketball that it has over just about every sport is at the end of the game, you're guaranteed like, we're going to get our guy the ball and see what he could do. And that's what, like, fundamentally, which is my hang up with, like, Donovan Mitchell to some degree, is in that situation. And that's my hang up with assuming that OKC, even though they're playing better right now, is better than Denver, because I know SGA is that guy. And we all have talked about how they don't actually have, like, a second guy in that way. He's not that guy in the way that Jokic has proven to be, to me at least.
And there's a bigger question there. SGA is awesome, and I don't want to come off as like an SGA
on him.
Oh. No, but there is a storied history over the last decade of guys who get to the free throw line as much as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being less effective in postseason series and having games where they just don't end up taking 14 free throws. And so, like, is there any concern? Like, I'm with you. The Denver thing, we're getting the resurgence of Jamal Murray, along with Jokic having the best season offensively of his entire career, has been unbelievable. But beyond that, is there any concern that, we might not get as effective of a Shai when it matters the most?
To the Shai portion, absolutely not for me. And like, I could be proven wrong in this series. Shai just averaged 37-6 last postseason.
Yeah.
And did so efficiently and didn't get to the line as much as he does and still did that. And so I'm just not worried about Shai. My questions goes to number 2, number 3, number 4 in terms of the scoring. Because I think they're just going to be able to defend literally anyone. They've just been that good all year long. They have a bunch of personnel they can throw at you. I think when Shai goes to the bench, what is the offense going to look like? Because what it has been this year, and this is with Jalen Williams, who I'm a big fan of, rightful all-star, I'm glad he got in. It's been a lot of tough mid-range shot making for Jalen Williams. And he's good at it, so it works. But in the playoffs, if we're going back to last season, like, that's a big reason why Dallas was able to beat OKC last year. Dallas defended well. Shai got off. But if Shai didn't have the ball or wasn't on the floor, it is now up to Jalen Williams to score against size at the rim. And he wasn't able to get that done. And we have seen improvement this year at him being able to do that. Again, he earned his way to the All-Star game this year. But I think that's probably my biggest question. If he can do it consistently, I think, I don't know how controversial this is going to be, OKC should breeze through the West if Jalen Williams is the all-star version of himself. Because I trust Shai that much, and I trust that defense that much. If Jalen Williams is inconsistent, OKC is still good enough to get out of the West, but it becomes a lot closer. And as we were talking about Denver a little bit, if it's Shai and Jalen Williams versus Jokic and Jamal Murray, like, obviously they're not guarding each other, but you get the general point. Right. Yeah. If it's those two, I don't blame people for trusting the Denver portion a little bit more. Because, like, we've seen it with those guys. And, like, Jokic is better than Shai. And even if you feel like Jalen Williams is better than Jamal Murray, I personally do. When it comes to shot creation, Jamal Murray is better. And that's what you're going to need in those kind of moments.
All right, we've gone way too long without talking about the Lakers, and I think before
we deserve a pat on the back. We did 45 minutes of basketball on ESPN, and without getting to the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, you did make some Bronny jokes though, but that's fine.
Everyone wants to see that. MJ Bronny would be.
Please stop.
That would be a Netflix special. You would tune in for that.
I can't say I would, because I turned on that Kobayashi on Netflix. So I'm definitely
Tyson Jake Paul's getting 38 million viewers or whatever it got.
I'm definitely watching MJ. Don't judge me. I heard that judging side because I turned on Tyson versus Paul and saw Mike Tyson's bare buttocks. That was sadly the highlight of that.
We didn't need that.
We did not. I was making a point. Charlie and I, before the show, kind of talked about the expectations, and I think there is some, like, Laker inflation, so I might be guilty of that also, but I figured, like, the expectations for the Lakers this postseason with Luka is, like, they should be able to beat everyone except for OKC and Denver. Like, if they lose to OKC and Denver, I feel like we can respect them. Anything else is short of that. Am I even inflating them by thinking that they should be able to get past, I don't know, the Rockets or whoever else is forming up a good run in the West?
Memphis, Houston.
Yeah, I would have to see, like, where the seeding breaks, because Memphis has been very good all year long. Like, they'll probably be the team that I list first. Like, if the Lakers lose to the Grizzlies, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't think that should be some kind of stain on the Lakers season. And even the Clippers, if they stay healthy, like they have been this good largely without Kawhi Leonard, and now they add Kawhi to this group. And so, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers beat the Lakers either. Like, I think for me, the ceiling is high because you have LeBron and Luka naturally. And like, as we were talking about OKC, one thing that I would keep an eye on with them in terms of playoff matchups is just teams with size, and teams with size at the wings in particular. Because the other reason Dallas was able to beat OKC last year, like you had that big wing creator in Luka Doncic. Mm-hmm. You had PJ Washington who decided to hit all the threes, but ultimately he can drive, he can get to his post-ups and stuff like that as well. And so with the Lakers, I don't think they have a roster on par with OKC's, and I would ultimately pick OKC in the series, I think. But OKC has struggled with these bigger wings because as elite as their defenders are, like Lou Dort's like 6'3", 6'4". Alex Caruso's like 6'3". Kaysen Waugh is, I think, 6'1", 6'2". Shea is a wiry 6'5", 6'6". Chet's 7-footer, but he's like 180, it feels like. And so when you have LeBron James and Luka Doncic, they can kind of bend the game to their will in that regard. So I think if we did somehow get like a second round Thunder Lakers series, like I think that series goes 6 at least.
Anytime I hear the name Lou Dort, I'm reminded how stupid I was last year in picking OKC over Denver and citing
over Dallas.
Picking OKC over Dallas and citing the Dortcher chamber as something. I didn't think he was going to stop Luka, but I thought he was going to slow Luka. I was like, don't worry. I mean, they got a lot of guys to throw at him. I was saying all my basketball idioms that I be hearing people say. I was like, they got a lot of different guys to throw at him. Luka breezed through them bums and made Lou Dort look the worst. Damn fullback playing basketball.
And Jalen Williams. Both of them. I remember that. I was just looking up thinking, I guess no one's going to stop Luka. Yeah. I mean, so is it fair to say the Lakers are the pain in the team? Seriously, but no, they're just like an awkward, weird matchup where they're going to grind the games to a halt and you're going to be beaten to afterwards because you're guarding two 270-pound wings for an entire series.
Yeah, like I think it's, in terms of annoyance, if it's not them, like I think that would be like Houston of the group. And I don't want to underestimate Houston. I just have questions about Houston's half-court offense still. So that's where I kind of get hazy with them. But like, again, the collective size of Luka and LeBron, the way they want to play at a deliberate pace, they'll bully you in the post and all that good stuff. And Houston, like they just have, when healthy at the very least, because they've been ravaged by injuries over the last 3-4 weeks. But when healthy, they just have so many guys they can throw at you defensively. Amon Thompson's crazy. Dylan Brooks is really good. Fred VanVleet when he's healthy. They could just toss a bunch of dudes at you. So they'll be annoying in a playoff setting as well. I could get with the Lakers being that case. It kind of feels like it's underselling them just because they still have LeBron and Luka to lean on offensively. Yeah. But through the broader lens, like I think if they were able to do something in the front court at the trade deadline, they certainly tried with the Mark Williams trade and that fell through. If they had more reliable size up front, I could get more behind, hey, watch out for the Lakers coming out of the West. I don't think this is the year for them.
Yeah, agreed. Dortcher chamber. Anyway, thank you so much. Nekias Duncan has joined us. The Dunker Spot is his podcast. You can go in there and get more of his basketball expertise. Did we have fun?
We had a great time.
We had fun.
We did it, guys. All right, appreciate it. I hope we have you on again soon, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me.
All right, thanks you. Thanks to all the great producers. I love you, Podville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.